Hi, this is Merrick with Ensemble Designs, and today I finally got my hands on a BrightEye NXT 450. This is the router that has a built-in encoder. I'm on location, and we're going to have a presenter in the front of the room, 2 cameras in the back of the room. I'm going to demonstrate to you how we're going to hook that up to the NXT and send it back to the studio. Let's get started.
Okay, let's take a look at the system diagram for how we're going to wire this up. 2 cameras to input 1 and 2. The scan converter is going to input 3. We have a local monitor, and we're going to plug in all the networking cables for local configuration and the feedback to the studio.
Now you notice I just hooked the camera straight to the NXT. That's because it has a built-in clean switch that allows me to run asynchronous sources to the router.
Let's set up the clean switch. Click on the clean switch tab, go to assignment, and assign it to the SDI encoder.
So let's say I want to have a local HDMI monitor plugged into the back of this router. I can simply use this SFP to HDMI converter, plug it in the back of the unit there, and have an HDMI signal that I can feed to this monitor.
So to configure the HDMI port, we go to Ports, scroll down to IO11, and instead of saying it's a destination, let's set it to follow. We're going to follow the SDI encoder, so the monitor always shows whatever we route to the encoder. And let's give it a name.
So one of the things to consider is audio. I'm going to take the audio from the presenter, feed it straight into this camera, and through the clean switch, select breakaway, which will feed this audio straight to the encoder.
To set the breakaway, we also go to the clean switch menu, go down to audio source, and select camera 1. This will make it so that the audio only comes from camera 1, does not follow the routing.
So I could control the router from the front panel here. I select new sources, hit take. But let's configure this iPad so that I can control the router wirelessly.
First, request authorization on the iPad, and then go to Settings, Control Points, click Authorize, and select a profile.
Now that we got everything hooked up, let's configure the encoder to send the signal back to the studio.
Okay, let's go through setting up the encoder. Let's go to Settings, scroll down to Encoding. We want to make sure we have the bit rate set for the bandwidth that we have back to the studio. 8 megabits looks pretty good. Now let's go down to Streaming. Let's type in the IP address of the other NXT 450 in the studio. This is our port number. We'll remember that number. Let's turn on the streaming.
Now I'm in the studio and I have a second NXT 450 acting as the decoder. Let's configure it so that it will receive the signal from the training room.
Now here we have the settings for the decoder. Go to the decoder menu. I want to set it for unicast, and I want to type in that same port number that I had before. And as we see, we're getting a feed from the training room. So one thing I want to make sure I do is route to the output of the decoder box the actual decoded signal. Now if you purchase the picture-in-picture option, you can go in and select picture-in-picture, and you can author a mosaic of 2 windows or 2 inputs that can be customized in position, border, what it looks like, which source it is, to create a picture-in-picture view that then can be routed to the encoder.
And there you have it, using the BrightEye NXT 450 to stream live cameras and the presentation back to the studio. Well, I think he's getting ready to start.